Hey, where were you?
Where were you?
Where were you?
Where were you?
Where were you when the sports ball thing happened that was awesome or really bad? These guys want to talk about it, Joel and Chad. Did a game change your life? Were you there in the crowd? Did you weep like a baby because you were so proud? Do you have a tattoo or a ritual or two that you actually believe's the reason why they win or lose? Yeah, where were you? Where were you?
Where were you?
Where were you for history in the making? Did it make you happy or crazy mad? These guys want to talk about it, not a single doubt about it. Listen to them talk about it, Joel and Chad.
Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Where Were You? This is the podcast that asks a very important question. Where were you when the sports ball thing happened? My name is Joel Beck, and today it's just me. Well, it's not just me, but there's no Chad today. He got kidnapped. We don't know where he is.
He's a little man. It's possible.
If you guys see him now, he had a thing. He had a last minute thing.
He can fit into many a trunk.
But I'm very excited about the man who's filling his shoes today. This is a person I've known for a very long time, my entire life. He is a credentialed content creator. He's got an entrepreneurial mind, a storyteller's heart. He runs his own production company called Scenic Road. He's also a serious home mixologist. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you can tell by the attire that he's wearing. Also, it looks like you're sitting in the Ewok village right now. I don't know exactly where he is.
Yeah.
But he's a man who looked at his basement and said, "You know what this basement needs? This basement needs a full tiki bar." So he built one. I was hoping you might, be recording from there, but there's still time. He's also my best friend since kindergarten. We go way back. There's been 3 weddings between the two of us, and we've stood next to each other for all 3.
And we just turned 50, so a funeral is coming soon
Right around the corner.
to a graveyard near you.
I've got so much material for that. You don't even want to know. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast, Darren Mark. How are you, my friend?
Hello. Excellent.
Yeah.
It's good
This
to be
is
here.
good stuff. Thanks for doing this. Coming in at the last minute. Now, here's the thing, Darren. Anybody who knows you might say, "Hey, that guy is a curious choice for a sports podcast," considering you're not really a sports fan. I mean, you are, right? Like the way a normal person is.
Yeah, I'm casually interested.
Yeah, you can watch it in the moment and then never think about it again, or let it affect your daily life.
I can
Right?
have a measured reaction for both wins and losses.
Yeah. It's so that to bring you onto this podcast. I mean, you and I have been best friends for a long time, and we just have other things that we have other shared interests that we talk about, but the reason I brought you on is because, as I said, you're a storyteller. You have a journalistic mind, and you and I grew up in the height of the Boston Celtics run in the 1980s with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish when they were, playing against the Lakers in the finals. That's why I wore this outfit. So to signal to people that we're going to be talking about the Boston Celtics today.
That's actually why I wore this outfit, because I don't have any Celtics clothing. So I wore the only green thing I could find in my closet, and it happens to be a Disney tiki shirt from the Enchanted Tiki Room. Sort of illustrating the lead-in.
Yes, right. So, but the reason I asked you here is because you actually used to go to a lot of games as a kid. Like your mom was a fan, right? And she would bring you to Celtics games as a kid, and you got to experience them. What was that like? Just kind of growing up with that in the background.
It was incredible. I mean, back in the 80s, the Celtics were to basketball what there's no one I don't know, there's no one like that to basketball currently.
Sure.
many teams have had dominant, decades, and the Celtics had like a dominant 50-year run, and
Yeah,
it really kind of concluded in the 80s. And then obviously there, in years since, they've done really
sure.
well, but there's never been another time where from decade to decade to decade the team has just dominated like they did. The Celtics and the Lakers were, the two teams that kept trading championships back and forth. And to live in Boston at that time was really special because you were part of this incredible legacy. And it was different than being a fan of, say, the Red Sox. The Red Sox had a great legacy, but it wasn't based on championships. It was just based on history and,
Yeah, they
Fenway
had
Park.
baggage.
Yeah, a lot of baggage. And so the Celtics were the one team that New England could hang its hat on as the team that would deliver championships. It wasn't the Bruins. It definitely wasn't the Patriots.
Right.
They were barely the New England Patriots from the days of Boston Patriots. And it wasn't the Red Sox. There was no Major League Soccer, et cetera, et cetera. So the
I believe
Celtics.
that there was a stretch in the '60s where the Celtics won 8 straight championships. The fabled 8 Pete, if you will.
Yeah,
You don't see many 8 Pete anymore,
no, from that the expression 8 Pete was born.
right?
Yes, and a whole wave of children named Pete were also born.
But only 8 of them.
Yes, there was a population boom of Petes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the Celtics were my first introduction to sports, too. That I later became a baseball freak, but yeah, it was hard, and plus I was tall, and so everybody thought I should be a basketball player, and like, oh, you should be like Larry Bird. I wasn't a good basketball player, but I definitely it was hard to live in the general Boston area and not get swept up by the Larry Bird Celtics in a lot of ways. So you explain to me what you would do. You would go to these games with your
Yeah.
mom,
Well,
and
it was a different time, and you had access to the players unlike we do today. They didn't have the same kind of security concerns. They didn't have boundaries like there are boundaries today. And in
and
the
you didn't
old
have any boundaries, certainly.
and I still don't.
Right.
Uh, so in the old Boston Garden, there was an access point in the back of the garden and this big ramp, and the players could either park in a parking lot that was not gated, crazy, or they could drive up the ramp into the garden. And it was kind of like 50-50. Half of them drove up into the garden, and then the other half just parked in the parking lot and then walked into the building. Like, I don't even have a
I
point of reference for that in modern day anything that has any sort of celebrity factor. It would be like Taylor Swift pulling up to the arena and being like, here's the keys, take care of her. I'm going to walk in. Let me get my bag. Like,
So, they're, like,
insanity.
driving up the garage ramp, like, looking for a spot. "Oh, I think one's gonna open up. I better get there. The game's gonna start," you
No,
know?
there was an actual parking lot. There was a physical above ground asphalt parking lot in back of the garden. And half of the players parked there, including a lot of like the famous ones.
And
And
was this
so,
the same was it the same parking lot that you and I would park in? Are you talking about? Or is it
no, this was a private lot, but you could just walk in back of the garden and get there. And it was connected to another lot where you could park at. So, it wasn't like a secret. So before or after the games, you could go and stand there and watch the players go in or come out. Then the visitors had a special entrance next door to the garden. There was a connecting building, and they would go into this entrance and they would access it that way. So in back of the building, it was like just for the players of the Celtics only. And um, in the 80s, when Bird was playing and, you know, Dennis Johnson and
character?
Parrish and McHale and on and on and on, that's how they would get in and that's how they would come out. And
And so
they
you being starstruck you would see them. I mean, and you were this close to them, and it wasn't good enough just to see them. You wanted to talk to them too, I assume.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you would get their autographs. So I have these autograph books still to this day. I would show you, but it's in my parents' house. But yeah, I had these these reporters' notebooks kind of, shaped. pads and, with like spiral bound that I picked up at CVS or whatever, or Bradley's. And I would sit back there with my, little Bic ballpoint pen and I'd get their autographs. And I did it so many times that like it wasn't interesting anymore because after you've gotten Larry Bird's autograph 5 times or Kevin McHale's or whatever, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what else? So
Right.
that's kind
Right.
of how it all began.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, so you got their autographs, and then in order to up the ante, like you said, you were no longer satisfied just by that. You started bringing a tape recorder to the games. Is that correct? And you
Yeah,
would
right.
talk to me.
Yeah, so you got half a dozen Bird autographs or whatever, and you're not going to stop seeing Larry Bird. That doesn't make sense. You have access to one of the greatest basketball players ever. Of course, you have to have some sort of interaction with him. So, then it's like, well, what else? And, I was 13 or 12 or whatever. And, I didn't think asking them to coffee was appropriate. Like want to come over and play with my Star Wars toys or battle me in Tetris? Like weird. So I thought, well, I could play the role of a junior reporter. That's believable that, that a 12-year-old would have some media empire. And I'm going to come with my little, dictation recorder and I'm going to
Yeah.
capture interviews for like who knows what. I don't know. And also in that time of my life, I had this reputation for being annoying. And in middle school, like I was the annoying kid. I was the one that just, like there was like the popular kid, there was the athletic kid, there was the bully, there was the annoying kid, there was the kid that picked his nose and ate his boogers. I was the annoying kid. And so this was all very consistent with my personality at the
You
time.
weren't
And
you
yeah.
weren't I never found you annoying. You didn't, yeah, boundaries were not there, and you didn't care. That was it. You didn't it didn't you didn't feel embarrassed or shamed by your behavior, and I always kind of respected that. You were like, "I'm just gonna be who I am, and I'm gonna go up to these guys, and I'm gonna talk to them, and this is how it's gonna be." So,
Well, yeah, I had no game, of any kind.
yeah.
Like I had nothing to lose. I didn't have this, incredible self-image, where I thought, "Well, boy, I can't risk being uncool today," because when the baseline is uncool, there's really nowhere to fall.
So so now talk to me. You've got the tape recorder in your hand, and players are going by. What kind of questions are you asking them? Do you remember specifically what you wanted to did you have their stats handy? Were you just talking about what would you ask them?
Well, I remember this this one day that, like Marv Albert came out and, I had the tape recorder and I'm like shoving it in his face. I mean, like it's like a
He's a broadcaster. He should appreciate it.
yeah. No, I'm like, shoving it in his face, and I'm asking him questions like, Mr. Albert, how would you evaluate your sports casting today? Like, like what?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Did you do a good job? Yes. Yeah.
Oh
So,
my god.
it was it's kinda like it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And, I would say like, what were the top 10 calls that you made today? And, what was the one memorable moment that you'll take with you after today's game? I mean, just like ridiculous nonsense.
I
And
love it
so,
though. I love the way the wheels are turning. Like you said, you you had that journalistic heart at a very young age. That's so
I
Larry Bird comes around.
I
Oh, go
don't
ahead.
think it wasn't journalism. It was uh, like I was I knew I was being an idiot and I was just leaning into that. I wasn't trying to get some scoop, for the rookie reporter, newspaper that my school published. I I was just like playing a role. It was almost like I was acting without being overly conscious. But I don't know what my end game was. I didn't have an outlet to publish this. I don't know. I
It was
guess
just fun. Yeah.
it was just fun, and I thought, I guess I'll just come home and share it with my friends. However, I barely had any, so that really wasn't a strategy either. Anyway, so I would
Do
go to
you
some of the
remember
players.
any? Do you remember any of the players being nice? Were there any that were that stand out in your mind as being like really accommodating and patient with you? And
Yeah, no, because I didn't really go to too many of the games with the tape recorder. I was mainly there interacting with them, and yeah, there were so many that were nice. I I remember there was a player, his name was Connor Henry, and my mom and I were just so impressed with his penmanship. Forget how he performed in the game. That man could lay out a C like no one's business. And like his H, I mean, you are
Ooh,
talking flourishes like you just haven't seen before. And, like I always enjoyed looking back at Connor Henry's signature, not as, like a memory of the time that we met or a representation of his excellence on the court, but just purely from a penmanship skill set. It was just really
it's amazing.
satisfying. Yeah. um, yeah, so no, a lot of the players were nice. Couple of them were like a little standoffish, and but whatever. But they were all really very. Listen, when you decide to walk down the ramp to go to your car in the basically, public ungated parking lot, I think you have inside of you, um, you know, a sense that you want to give back to the fans, or
Yeah,
else you just wouldn't do that. And so, otherwise, you're the guy that gets in his car and drives down the ramp with the tinted windows and you don't interact with anybody. And there were plenty of those people too. But, Bird, McHale, Danny Ainge, I don't know, the list went on and on. Dennis Johnson, Parrish, they would all walk down. And then, a lot of the players that like we don't even remember anymore, like Jerry Sichting and
sure.
Scott Wedman and
But all right. So talk to me about Larry Bird. There was an incident with Larry Bird, wasn't there? A somewhat memorable incident, a
yeah.
regrettable incident.
Yeah, so first of all, there was this woman that went to every game, and her name was Mary. And I'm sure if you Googled Mary, Boston Celtics fan, 1980s, I'm sure there is a record of her somewhere because she never missed a game. She clearly had season tickets. She was always in the same green sweatshirt and like had like headphones around her neck, probably because she listened to the radio while she was at the
Sure.
game, and she would always chat with the players like with a level of ease that I just found really interesting. And they all knew her. And so she was almost like an actual amateur reporter or member of the press because she was asking them about the game with a level of insight and intelligence that they really respected. So I
Gotcha.
observed this person over, years having these conversations, and she was like quirky and weird and, whatever. She's just going to every game and hanging with the players. Like that was her community. And
You wanted
so
to be Mary's protege. You're gonna be
so I realized like, okay, I could kind of be like Mary, I could come up with these questions and I could take it to the next level by bringing a tape recorder and recording it. And so, I had the tape recorder and, these random players would come down, Cedric Maxwell and whomever. And, I don't know, I'd ask them questions. Well, one day, number 33 comes out, Larry Bird. And, it wasn't new seeing Bird, but this was a new interaction with him. So there were a bunch of people crowding around him, not throngs, like, eight.
yeah.
And yeah, biggest basketball player, it's him and Magic Johnson and Kareem. And like it was right around the time that Jordan came into the league. So you're
Sure.
talking like one of the biggest basketball players on the planet. And like, there's 8 Bostonians and just like basically unimpressed. So Boston, barely amused.
Oh my god.
And so here I have this tape recorder. And, I'm whatever height I was at age 12, average height, and he's, I don't know, what is he, six
Six
eight, six
nine or
nine,
something. Yeah.
6'9", yeah.
Yeah.
So there I am, and, I've got the, thing, and I'm just like, Mr. Bird, Mr. Bird, uh, you know, uh, do you recall the last time you hit a three-pointer in the same game that you also won a jump ball? And, you know, right? Like,
As a
so,
matter of, and he's
yeah.
like,
Yeah. So he's like looking down, and all these years later, there's all these bird docs, and we've kind of gotten to know the man through all these documentaries. And he was like a rough and tumble kind of street fighter guy. Turns out that um, he was legendary in the NBA for trash talking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
right,
my
supremely confident.
yeah, my impression of him was just like farm kid.
Yeah, he looked like a country
Yeah,
bumpkin.
right,
Yeah, he
right.
he
But
really did. Right.
no, it turns out like he would like shiv you, you know, before he would help you take the groceries across the street. I'm sure he would do both simultaneously because I think he was a nice guy. Still is probably, but no, like he did not take anything from anyone. So here I am, Mr. Bird, and just one inane question after the other. I'm just thinking of it through the lens of my mom, and she must have thought like, who is this kid I raised, and can we send him back? Or
Even Mary's mouth was agape at this
yeah,
point. She's like,
yeah, right. Yeah,
I don't
Mary
know.
puts the headphones back on. Just like
I don't know this
I
kid.
I can't listen to this. So finally, he looks at me, he gives me like the stare of death, and he grabs the tape recorder from my hands. And he takes it, all 6, 9 of them. So, 2 stories up, there it is. And he threatens to throw it like that. And I remember yelling out, "No, my tape recorder!" and then he just handed it back to me,
Oh
without
my
having
gosh.
said anything. But what
He
I
didn't
what I
say he didn't say a word to you the
no, he
entire
didn't say a word to me. And the kid that has the reputation for being the most annoying in my class turns out to be the same kid that actually was able to annoy Larry Bird to the point where he threatened to destroy my tape recorder, a 12-year-old's tape recorder.
on. I will never get tired of the story. I've heard it. I will never get tired of it.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
I
And yeah.
I hope that I hope that those tapes exist somewhere. I'm sure they don't. Maybe they're at your parents' house. But what an amazing experience. I love it.
It
Now
would be a
you
cool find. Although you would not hear Larry Bird on the tape. You would just
that's
hear
true.
me yelling and asking these ridiculous questions. You would hear
And say,
Marv Albert.
"No, my
Yeah,
tape recorder."
no! Like, my voice cracking because I'm entering puberty. No!
The show is called Where Were You? That's us. You can the best way to support us, if anybody out there is watching and listening, the best way to support us is to hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on all the social medias. And you can also, if you have a Where Were You story that you want to share with us, please send it in. You can email it to info@wherewere-you-podcast.com. Darren, what do you got? Anything to plug? What do you got? Anything going on? Anything else you want to say? This is it. This is your chance.
No, I'm a loser.
Oh my God. You're not. You're
I
not.
ju
You're a winner
I
with
just
a
walk
paper
around. I
clip.
just walk around, and it's a 50-year-old man walking around in Disney tiki shirts. That's what I have to plug
Well, thank
because
you.
Disney
Thank you for
needs my
not.
help.
They do. And thank you for not throwing this tape recorder because we are recording this. Thank you for not taking it and throwing it. I don't know how you would do that since I'm in Cleveland and you're in Kansas City. But Darren, you're one of my favorite people on the entire planet Earth, and I thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. I can tell it's busy. Sitting there on Cameron Fry's deck. Darren, you're the best. Thank you so much for doing this. You make me laugh. This is
I
Where Were
know.
You? I know you do. All right. We're out. Goodbye.